Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Robots and Red Tape. As always, I am your host, Nick Schutt. And for everybody out there listening, really just want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. You're the best part of this podcast. You're what makes this so successful. So really appreciate you tuning in. And I hope everybody had a great holiday. And if you're here in the United States, like myself and Sunil are, very, very happy to have, Sunil Prasad on with me today. Sunil is, he and I are going to have an awesome conversation. And we're really going to be trying to answer the question, why do we even need AI, right? And talking about the history and kind of how we got here. So, Sunil, thank you so much for coming on, sir.
Good morning, and thank you, Nick. This is awesome. You and I, we had great conversations in the past, and obviously, AI is the future. There are a lot of concerns in our industry for AI, but I think that's why we are here with our skill sets to address them and move forward because speed and technology and go to market is becoming the super critical aspect of this technology. And how
Mhm.
do we make that change in our behavior adoption and then making greater things happen at this point of time with the newer technologies or emerging technologies. And AI is just one of them. There are many
Mhm.
other technologies that are sort of getting the birth right now. So we can address some of those as well. So I'm looking forward to it, Nick, and thank you.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. And so now for folks that don't know you or haven't had the opportunity to chat with you yet, you mind telling folks a little bit about yourself, your background, and kind of how you got here, man?
Sure. So Nick, that's a great start. I'm Sunil Prasad for everybody who don't know me. I work with a company called Leidos. We are a government contracting company here in Washington, D.C. area, Reston to be more precise. I'm the principal solution architect for AI ML solutions, and I design a lot of systems for our government agencies, either it's a defense or home national security or health and civil. So we have different sectors that I support. Primarily, I focus on designing the systems that are more predictive analytics in nature, and then how the future can be better or our targets are much more accurate. So that's
Mhm.
where this AI, the machine learning and deep learning can help. So I do those things. I have had different roles from CTO to vice presidents. But right now, I'm enjoying my journey on the AI. I actually went to Georgia Tech, just finished my second master's in data science a couple of years ago, and that adds a lot of skills
Mhm.
in this whole phenomenon of AI technology. How
Absolutely.
did I get there? Long journey. I started my career 3 decades ago with the undergrad in computer science and engineering. And when I look back, I really find it fascinating that we are talking about AI right now. But we had one class in my undergrad school, and that was automata theory.
Mhm.
And that was the Turing machine, Dr. Alan Turing. How do we make the computational methods so it can make certain mathematical decisions based upon the mathematical equations? So it seems like a bombardment of AI technology right now, but this technology is not that old. This technology is not that new,
Mhm.
and I find it even more fascinating. In my own career, I started my journey with coding in C and Unix and doing a lot of databases. And with the plethora of the amount of the data sets that we have right now,
Mhm.
I think machine learning and deep learning can take a huge advantage of a statistical model to do the predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics type of work. So it's been fascinating journey. I have loved every part of the work that I have done, and I'm here.
Absolutely, man. No, I really appreciate you coming on and fascinating background and looking back. I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but what are some of the formative experiences that shaped how you think about data, algorithms, and the role of AI?
It's an interesting point, data, right? And I used to be a DBA.
Hmm.
So my life was, or my work life was all around the data sets and how do we create these structured data sets. But then with the emergence of this social media, call it Meta, call it Facebook, call it LinkedIn, and bunch of other platforms that we have today, we started doing the unstructured data sets. So the question became, how do we manage the unstructured data sets? And early 2000, we didn't have much tool set. So this whole journey of a structured to unstructured, I divide this whole thing into, I guess, five different ways. So artificial intelligence is a concept, as we all know. And
Hmm.
then machine learning is more like a statistical model for the pattern recognition. Deep learning was an attempt which has been very successful. I mean, we have some challenges. Deep learning has been a neural network, which is like we are trying to mimic how the brain works with the neurotransmitters. And how do we have? So we took that model of neurotransmitters from input layer. So in the real brain, we have something called dendrites and then axon, and that's how they communicate from one neuron to another neuron. And then you have input layer and output layer in the deep learning. So some of the scientists that comes to my mind was Dr. Frank Rosenblatt. Back in 60s, he started doing a lot of work. He was actually a Cornell University psychologist professor, and he was trying to create certain aspects of how the brain works for the computational methods. So you have the input layer, output layer, hidden layer, and he created something called perceptron, which will do the inputs and biasness, multiply them at the inputs and the weights,
Hmm.
and then do a summation like a sigma, and then you add the biasness, and that becomes your activation function leading into perceptron. So we did the deep learning, and then as we all know, in the last 3 to 4 years, the LLMs took the birth, call it generative AI.
Hmm.
And now this year, 2025, has been agentic AI, which can actually, if you think about it, generative AI is a lot of information that gives you as the word predictions and sentence predictions and paragraph predictions and creates an essay for you or
Hmm.
your responses. But it by itself is not an action that you can take advantage of it. So agentic AI, the birth of agentic AI has been, a system of things where you can create a workflow that can help you doing a set of tasks, such as, booking a ticket. So it can look into multiple different airlines, if you will, and then your schedule, the cost, and then gives you three different options, seven different options that you can pick it from. So the evolution of artificial intelligence to machine learning to deep learning, generative AI, and now agentic AI, it's been fascinating. And that's how I got into all this interesting part of my career. One story I'll tell you, I was in a meeting 10 years ago, and it was big data back then. Everybody was talking about big data, and one of the guys that I used to work with, he started talking about statistical model using AI. And the whole discussion got me into my automata theory class. And I was like, you know what? If there is anything I need to do,
Hmm.
I'm going to study more. And I wrote some white papers within Leidos 7 years ago on AI when we were still trying to understand how this pattern recognition works. So
Hmm.
that's a little bit about my journey, how I started and how I find it fascinating and trying to make a difference in the world and at my work.
Absolutely, man. No, that's absolutely fascinating. And one of the things like we are talking about is like as a field, like is the history of this field, right? And I know you brought a lot of it up around, like mimic, deep learning and how we're trying to use compute to mimic the brain and how the brain functions. But this field is often said to, started about 83 years ago, right? So 83 years ago was the 1950s, right? What did early visions of this look like and this technology look like?
You know, Yeah, and you said it very well. It's 83 years old, 85 years old. I almost feel like the real work started, and I actually did some homework on this particular
Hmm.
phenomenon several months ago because I'm in the process of writing a book.
Okay.
And in that process, I'm trying to understand. why AI is so important and when did we start thinking about AI? So I'll take a little bit of detour just to make my point.
Mm-hmm.
I have divided this into five segments, if you will. And it started in 1920s. And I made some note just for our discussion purpose, and I call them from 1920s to 1940s. I call it more like early conceptual methods for the computations, and those were the foundations, right? So that's 1920s to 1940s. Then actually the golden age uh, for the AI was from 1950s to 1974. And that's the time you'll hear a lot of names like John McCarthy, Frank Rosenblatt, um, and then the other big name that you will hear is, Dr. Alan Turing, Minsky, Marvin Minsky, Seymour. These were the scientists. Actually, they did it all differently, not like they were working together, different universities and writing paper, creating some method. So that was the golden age from 1950s to 1974, and that's the time they started doing this neural they didn't call it neural network then, but they were thinking to create a function called activation function and perceptron, so
Mm-hmm.
you can do the predictions for the next word. And it's amazing to know in 1960s, I think, to be more precise, I think it was 1964 or 66. There was this natural language processing systems. Today we talk about LLMs, and that's like, NLP. However, a new system was designed called ELIZA that could do the predictions of the next word, ELIZA. And that system was designed back then. But unfortunate part happened in 1971. Then Dr. Frank Rosenblatt, he died in a boat crash in the water. He was doing some entertainment activities, I believe, and
Mm-hmm.
he just, I guess, drowned, and he
Wow.
died. And that basically stopped a lot of work that he was doing. And then the third sector or third segment of this AI revolution fell into something called AI winters.
Mm-hmm.
And AI winters is very like it's like a low moment. The funding is stopped for the universities and academia.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of other things happened. The speed of the processing was is still a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Intel started creating some new CPUs and stuff like that back then, but because of the funding and many other factors and death of Dr. Frank Rosenblatt, we had the AI winters, and that lingered for almost like 2 decades until like 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
And then a phase comes, the fourth phase or segment, I call it modern AI and statistical learning. That's when some of these companies, we all know NVIDIA, they started doing their things and started to create better hardware, the GPUs, and this is very early stage of NVIDIA, right? And so probabilistic models, the calculations, the Bayesian theorems, all these theories started to take a shape in the
Mm-hmm.
fourth phase of AI revolution. IBM created something called Deep Blue. And back in 1997, uh, and then the support vector machine was created back in 2000. So these statistical model started to get some attention, and comes 2000, a lot of these companies such as Google, Google just started back then, and Amazon was trying to get into, some of these things. So early stage, and then Nvidia was becoming better in terms of their hardware design. So, and then money started pouring in for the AI research and work like that. So this 1990s to early 2000, a lot of great things happen, and that's
Mm-hmm.
how great things such as the hardware, the computational speed, the amount of the data started increasing. Because Nick, as you know, for AI models to do a better job, for any statistical model for predictive analytics,
Hmm.
even when we did the statistical model manually, more data is better for your predictions because then you can apply your different, either it's a regression or classification or gradient boost or
Hmm.
any of these models have a better job, can do a better job if you have more data sets. So we started, and then we had unstructured data sets that I had touched upon earlier.
Hmm.
So that's how all these things started picking up. Getting into the next phase, which is the fifth phase of the deep learning revolution.
Hmm.
And that deep learning revolution, most of us heard the name last year. I can't remember, it was last year or earlier this year, the Nobel Prize winner, Dr. Jeffrey Hinton.
Hmm.
He is considered to be the father of deep learning. Not that he did it alone. There were a couple of other people like Alex and Dennis and these guys, they started doing some deep learning. And that's when they formalized the process
Hmm.
of what Dr. Frank Rosenblatt and Marvin Minsky had done the work in 60s that was stopped. So they picked up around early 2000 and they started creating these models for the deep learning. They ran into a huge problem, something called it's XOR problem.
Hmm.
You know how we have the AND between the two functions and then you have OR, but
Hmm.
XOR is slightly different. So they ran into this problem, the XOR, and so their predictions got stopped at certain levels when you're doing the predictive analytics. So the solution was found out using the back propagation function. So you can calculate the loss function as you continuously, because when you do the accuracy calculations,
Hmm.
if it's not as accurate as it should be, so you can start doing the back propagation,
Hmm.
back, and find out where is the missing piece. So all these things were taken care of, and then obviously NVIDIA started making super great GPUs
Yep.
which is speed up the calculation. So that deep learning phase went on. There is a model called AlexNet model, which is part of the CNN. And finally, in back in 2019 to 2020, I would say, uh, the LLM became a little bit more popular. Comes out, I believe it was 2021 or 2022 December time period when the OpenAI came out and LLM became super powerful. And
Hmm.
now we all know about generative AI. We have tons of those, and then that led into agentic AI this year. So this is sort of the fascinating journey from a
Hmm.
lot of 5 or 6 different phases of the AI starting from 1920s. I want to add something, if you have time, is that this is the first time in the human mankind since the Industrial Revolution we have outsourced our limbs, such as arms and legs and
Hmm.
our core muscles, to do things with the machines. So, for example, if we cannot lift things, we got the robots or some machines that
Hmm.
can lift things for you, the
Yeah.
heavy weight.
Like the cotton
So,
gin, right? The cotton gin.
yeah,
The cotton gin allowed cotton to be produced at a mass level because it solved the bottleneck in the process 100%. And that makes a lot of sense. And now I think it's like you're saying we're outsourcing this is the first time we've been able to outsource our minds in a similar way.
yeah, and that's exactly right, Nick. You're 100% correct. And then so limbs were okay to outsource,
Hmm.
but the question becomes, on the food chain,
Hmm.
humans are on the top. That's because we have our brain and neocortex at what, 2.98% is the active. So imagine if it's more, how
Hmm.
much more humans can do. So I have been trying to understand the evolutions of humans from the Neanderthals time to Homo sapiens. We are all Homo sapiens, and we are on the top of the food chain. So if we have outsourced our brain,
Hmm.
are the GPUs and machine learning and deep learning and agentic AI and generative AI, they are gonna take over the food chain,
No,
or
no, I think so.
humans will continue to evolve and still stay on the top. So that's a question. I see you nodding your head, so
Mhm.
your head. So I'd like to hear your perspective.
I don't think so. I don't think that I don't like, at least not for a long time. I think that for that to happen, first, robotics will have to come a long way. And second, I think that um the reason I don't believe so is that you can't really create anything new using AI, right? Everything is a greatest hit, everything is a repeat, everything is a replay, right? You can't, and when you think about how humans, like when you think about how humans come out with, and create new ideas, right? There's a lot, like what we are able to do is we're able to like use analogies and think about things, right, in new ways, right? And like what I mean by this is that if you know how to drive, you can drive any car, right? And like it might take you a little longer to learn how to drive like a school bus, like a bus or a tractor trailer based on the size. But you and I, we can drive pretty much any car. If you can drive a
Yeah.
stick shift, you can drive pretty much any car, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, for an AI to do that, they would treat every car like it's a brand new car.
Hmm.
And they wouldn't be able to apply their lessons and the experience to something new in a new and imaginative way. And I think that that's why we are where we are, right? I think AI and like a lot, like I think AI is a lot better than people at some things, right? Processing massive amounts of data. Like we can't process the amount of data that these LLMs process or store the amount of data or recall it, but we also don't need that anymore, right? This is part of the reason why I have problems with the education system currently. I think
Yeah.
the education system is set up in a way where like rote memorization is a lot of it, right? And that's not something that you really need when you have access to all the information that humanity has ever generated on your phone at all times, right? What you do need is you need to know how to be able to think.
Yeah.
And I don't like these, like for all of their the incredible things that they're able to come up with, right? Has it ever told you a funny joke you'd never heard before? Right? Like it doesn't have like has it ever written music? Has it ever created art? Right? And that's what we're, and when I look at like agentic solutions, my hope is that it will allow us to spend more time doing what we do best, right? Just like as you look through the Industrial Revolution, what it allowed us to do was be far more productive as a society and create the foundation that we are still building off of to have this revolution that we're going through right now.
Yeah. No, you are spot on, and I think you did touch upon a lot of things that's interesting. I am a strong believer of, even though since industrial revolutions, which is 350 to 400 years, um, humans have
Hmm.
evolved. So, as we know, genetically, we are very strong and mutations happen and we adopt newer things, and environment will continue to challenge our brain. So,
Hmm.
while machines are enhancing, if not 100% of the population, because we have 6 or 7 different continents and the education level and accessibility to the different information and systems is different, um, the brain is still trying to enhance our skills.
Hmm.
So while the machines are enhancing, if not 100% to the point that I mentioned earlier, maybe 20%, 30% of the population will continuously challenge their thought process, and we will have more thoughts, better thoughts,
Hmm.
or different thoughts, because we have, as a human nature, we are very creative,
Hmm.
and that creativity will continue to lead into coming up with the newer things, and we will stay on the highest level of the food chain. That's my hope. But
Yeah.
here is the contrary argument that I also have. My left part of the brain and right part of the brain, they make arguments to each other at
Hmm.
times. So machine learning and deep learning have models to continuously enhance their own abilities to do the predictives or predictions. So a lot of time, even as a human, for certain algorithms and models, it's very hard for us to know what will be the next prediction. So that part is very scary. You touched upon education. I think the educational system will be changing. That's just because, do we really need a
Hmm.
classroom setup? I personally enjoy classroom setup. I'm a human. I like to see human. I like to talk to the human and enjoy that. You can do back and forth questions.
Hmm.
But younger generations, Gen Z, their behavior for learning is very different.
Hmm.
I mean, part of the problem is COVID that actually created 4 years of children or 5 years of children. They don't talk as much because they think that's normal.
Hmm.
So there are challenges. Aerospace, automobile industry changing a lot. Defense is changing a lot. National security is changing a lot. Health is changing a lot with all this, information that we have. So it's a interesting turning point right now.
I agree.
Innovations is the key. So I
Mhm.
think I think we need to understand it better and do some research and understand what's good for the human mankind and create some guardrails. What's really going to be helpful to our
Mhm.
society and culture versus something that's going to harm us.
Yep.
And then that guardrail should be taking the call this way or that way.
Yep.
So that's a lot of work that we need to focus on as we continue to
100%.
evolve.
Yeah, two points. I think first, if we had never dreamed up situations, right, in books and entertainment where AI took over the world, whether you look at iRobot, you look at, the Terminator, there's a lot of other books out there, a lot of movies that I'm not referencing, right? If we'd never created those, do you think AI would even imagine to do it? Or do you
Um,
think it would, if it does happen, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy?
you make me think about a movie, and I'll answer your question with this example. This movie was created, if I'm not mistaken, in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Don't quote me for that. Around that early 2000. The name of the movie is called Artificial Intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you have seen it, but the gist of the movie or the theme of the movie was there was this couple, wife and husband, and they have a child, I think 7, 8 years old, and he was diagnosed with some medical problem which was terminal. So mother was very worried, and that emotional trauma. And then so father was able to get an artificially created boy just like his son,
Mm-hmm.
and the son was growing. This artificially created or artificially intelligently created this son was growing just like the other son, but the other son, the real son, was in the hospital. So I think it took some time, 6 months, 1 year. I don't remember the whole part of it, or 2 years. And then this artificial son became almost like a real son to the mother. And father knew he's not real.
Mm-hmm.
So she had emotional attachment.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately enough, the real son who was in the hospital, he got better. So now he came back home. Now there are two brothers, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
One is artificial, one is real, natural. They started having their own, sibling rivalry, and then mother was, going through a lot of trauma. Which one is real? Which one is not real? So the whole story revolves around, can you develop, to your question, can you develop that emotional attachment, intelligence with the artificially created humans or humanoids that can be, in the systems?
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle that? It's a hard question. I don't know. Honestly speaking, I don't know the real answer
Yep.
how people will do next 20 years, 30 years, 100 years,
Mm-hmm.
200 years when you have a Nick walking around just like Nick, or Sunil walking around just like Sunil, or anybody else. And can you have these, the machines or robots or AI driven things walking around your own home? So I don't know the answer to that question, and I don't know it's good or bad.
Hmm.
It may be good for certain people, it may not be good for certain other
Yeah.
people. So
Hmm.
those are the discussions we need to have at this point of time, and I think that's important aspect of AI evolution.
I agree. The second point I'll make is I'm a history buff, right? I
Oh, great.
love reading about history and learning about history. And so, when you think about people that lived 170 years ago, so 1850-ish, right? Their day-to-day lives had more in common with people who lived 1,000 years before them than with
Hmm.
us today, right?
Hmm.
But looking at the speed of evolution of AI, when do you think our lives today will have more in common with people from 1850 than they do with who we become?
I The commonality from 1850, actually, it's a great question. And let's see if I can respond to that question. Someone asked me, it's not too long, last week, he said, Sunil, you are an AI guy, you're doing a lot of work in AI in your company, and you read a lot of things, you went to school. A lot of jobs are gonna go.
Hmm.
What's your answer? And my answer was simple. This is not the first time the jobs are gonna go away.
Hmm.
So what's the commonality? If you go back 1856, I'll go with that number. We had a lot more farmers back then.
Hmm. But
Lot
we
more
also had a
farmers.
lot less food.
And we had a lot less food and we had a lot less population.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right? So we had a lot more farmers. Today we have less farmers, but we have more equipments to help farming.
Hmm.
Um, so what happened? So I asked him, so you tell me what happened to all the farmers? Is our economy worse from 1850, mid 1850s to today? Economy has grown in 175 years. Economy
Hmm.
has grown. Actually, a majority of the GDP is from all these IT companies, hardware, software, and consulting companies that we have. So during this time period, we have grown much better, although the traditional way of doing things are going away or changing or innovative ways adopting something new. So then I made my second point to him. It's like, yeah, we're going to lose some jobs, the traditional jobs of cashiers and stuff like that, or healthcare insurance agents, and basic questions in customer support. And actually, we are creating a lot of systems within part of our ecosystems to have that service desk. I created a graph notes where you can do the infrastructure predictive analytics
Hmm.
that we have installed to our customers and clients. And then we are doing the interactive talking in the service desk. So you can do, 30%, 40% of the initial calls without getting a human on the line. So um,
Hmm.
nuclear energy, electrical engineering is going to become super powerful in next 1 decade to 2 decades. As you heard, the new bill that was signed just last week by White House President Trump was about the Genesis mission, which is the America's AI action plan.
Hmm.
And so that's going to create the integrated platforms that will need more jobs.
Hmm.
If you think about creating hyperscaling, that needs a lot more hardware. And to run all these data centers, the
Hmm.
amount of electricity that we are generating today needs to be 3 times in next 5 to 7 years
Hmm.
just to run the AI data centers.
Yep.
So imagine the power of newer jobs that are coming in the nuclear energy. Just Department of Energy is actually driving all these things. There was some executive orders. I forget the number. Actually, I was looking into that
Hmm.
other day. That's going to create tons of new jobs. So going back to your original question, what happened in 1856 versus now to 1,000 years ago? I consider it to be evolution. The commonalities between the jobs that we have will be continuously challenged and changed. At the same time, the mundane work, mundane tasks are going to go away with the machines and people will get used to. I was just thinking about this example when my kids were growing up not too long ago, 18 years ago or something like that. We used to go to Toys R Us and they changed the name to something later on, I forget. But so we used to buy the toys there they can play, but new generation kids are starting there, growing up with the iPads.
Yeah.
So you see the difference in last 15 years. So
Hmm.
there will be some commonalities, but the enhancements and newer
Yep.
intelligent machines and
Hmm.
things like that will become the norm
Yep.
for the younger generation.
Yeah. And just, dovetailing on that, man, from your perspective, Sunil, why does AI even matter? Why do we even need it?
It's a it's a question that can I can debate either way, like in
Mhm.
pros or cons. Let's just start with the pros. We need AI because human brain is very powerful and human brain always wants to learn and do something newer and different and better. So we continuously do a lot of things in everyone's job. We have to document, we have to write things that if we have a co-assistant, he or she can do that work so you can move to the next thing much faster. You can
Mhm.
create more value
Mhm.
with the less resources. So that's the reason AI is going to become your co-augmenting, co-pilot, call it, or a co-worker, you call it. So 50% of your work can be done by the machine. So that 50% time you saved, you can do better things. So that's why AI is going to be useful in the medical field. A lot of surgeries, as you know, they are being done with the robotics, endoscopic, they do and look at the
Mhm.
computer, and a lot of things they're doing it. A lot of predictive analytics. I was talking to a surgeon in one of the conferences not too long ago, and she was like, if I can know about the history
Mhm.
of a patient when he is or she is getting onto the theater, the OT, the operation theater,
Mhm.
ahead of the time, and also create a report that when I did this procedure, when in the industry, how many times, what are the different problems have occurred, so I can plan better for this particular, so AI can be helpful. There is a purpose. You can do the same thing with aerospace. You can do the same thing with defense. You can do same thing with the automobile industry. As you know, it's advancing retail business, anything that you can imagine, farming. um, but then now if I go to the negative side of it, it's gonna make certain people lazy. That's a concerning. They don't want to
They
think
already
enough.
are. They already are lazy. Let's be clear. Like there's a lot of lazy people in this world. A
Yeah,
lot of
so
people that
it's
will work very, very hard to not be productive. And you and I know.
yes. Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part of it. So how do we make a balance of it? And that's where the biasness to trusted AI, and
Hmm.
I did some work on that. That how do we make the AI maturity assessment, the AI readiness, the data readiness, all these different questions can be sort of addressed with the pros of it. Because AI has a purpose, AI is a journey, AI is fascinating, AI is impressive. At the same time, how does it harm it? So we need to also identify the areas where it's going to become hurtful, harmful, so we can address them
Hmm.
before it becomes a bigger problem than the solution. So we need to spend time on
Yeah.
both sides of the this equation.
What does AI actually do well today? Like today, like what does it really do? Very, very
um
well.
I mean, I can give you some examples where AI does a good job of understanding. Listen, AI can never be 100% accurate.
Yeah, but neither can people,
Uh, uh, Neither can people. That's a good
right?
argument. That's a good argument. But we have a natural tendency to believe if five humans did it together, we believe, yeah, it's a good. That's what we can go with, right?
Hmm.
Because we give values to the humans. Now, the way and the good part about the machine learning of doing it better or worse is one way to do it. I look into the confusion metrics. Any model that you design, you go through the accuracy checks, right? Accuracy rate, error rate, bunch of these different, if you go back to the clinical analysis for any drugs they did, they created the confusion matrix, true positive, true negative, false positive, false negative, and then it did a lot of calculations to find out this model is 80% accurate versus 70% accurate. So there are things that can be useful if I can predict the type of things that will break in infrastructure ahead of the time because we have all the log information.
Hmm.
The question becomes how do we make it more resilient? How do we address them much faster, much sooner,
Hmm.
so that before the problems occur, I can go and fix my machines or other things ahead of the time. So, as an example, if I can do infrastructure predictive analytics to 80% accuracy rate, 85% accuracy rate, I think we can use the AI much more effectively. If I can know service desk call volume
Hmm.
ahead of the time, not just the volume, but the types of the problems that have occurred. So
Hmm.
we can make a bracket of, these are my top problems. Let's focus on those. So those problems go away. So that will be a good advantage. What is working AI very well? I mean, we don't need to say about the EV cars.
Hmm.
I mean, all these cars are running autonomously, and some of the cars have no drivers, as you heard the news.
Hmm.
Waymo and Tesla and a bunch of these other ones in, a lot of cities.
Hmm.
They're running, so it's running good. I have not, I mean, there were some cases like one or two accidents 5 years ago, 7 years ago, but I haven't heard any major accidents in the last 6 months or 1 year. That's definitely working well.
Hmm.
So I think there are a lot of good things that are happening, and there are a lot of good use cases that are doing well.
Hmm. Absolutely. And what are, and I think we touched on this a little earlier, but where do you, some areas where you think that we shouldn't expect AI to be the answer?
I think when it comes to medical procedures,
Hmm.
I think we have to be careful how we use it because you're dealing with the life and death.
Hmm.
And radiologist and dermatologist will be good ones to do. But if you're dealing with the leukemia type, pediatric,
Hmm.
oncology type problems, I think that may be something you don't want to just have the AI do the things,
Hmm.
bone marrow transplant and all these things. And I
Right.
know a little bit about this because my brother is a pediatric oncologist.
Hmm.
So that's something we have to think a little bit more. Uh,
Hmm.
and, suggesting a lot of things based upon the LLM models uh, is great. But I think how do humans pick and choose, excuse me,
Hmm.
pick and choose what is right, what is wrong? And that's where your intelligence, human intelligence come. So I think that's where if humans can do a better job to understand, I'm more concerned about um, the people who just think whatever the LLM said is 100% accurate. It's
Hmm.
not accurate. It may not be accurate, I would rather say. So you need to do enough checks and balances and validations before you say this is correct and that's what I need to do. So I think that can be something we need to focus on.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And when I think about things that the AI likely shouldn't do or, won't do, right? Um, and where it shouldn't be the answer, like obviously, yeah, parenting below a certain age, like parenting is one, like raising children, obviously, very like interpersonal thing. I don't think AI should be a therapist. Also, just like let's take all the hallucinations and all of that away. God forbid, dude, who owns that data if you have an AI therapist, right? Right, and that's a
Yeah.
whole other level of concern. I don't think that I don't really want it to be involved in weapons and weapon systems, but I'm sure it will be. That gives me pause, right? And so like there's a lot of places where we really need to be very skeptical about it. And just because we think that it shouldn't be there now doesn't mean it can't be there in the future when these systems have gotten a lot better. But I don't think that these systems are sophisticated and mature enough yet to handle a lot of things when you look at the just general hallucinations that occur. And I know, like, you see, like, I also, like, I don't think you should be like, I also really don't think that we should have AI friends, like AI friend apps or AI girlfriends or AI boyfriends or whatever. Like, yeah, I'm sure you've heard about the character AI case and what's been going on in Florida,
Mhm.
uh, and like that's just like that was just like the first guy I'd ever heard, first person, first young man, a teenager I'd ever heard of who, he killed himself to be with it, or he killed himself to be with his AI, avatar that he fell in love with. And when you think about that combined with the, epidemic of loneliness that's been building for the last, call it 15 plus years, I have a lot of concerns around that. So there's a lot of areas I don't think we should, should have AI, but I know that, people are going to do a lot to make a buck. So it is what it
Yeah.
is.
It is what it is. Like I'll go back to address, and you touched upon the parenting. I didn't think about it because my kids are a little bit grown up now. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, those are very important aspect of parent and children. That
Hmm.
relationship, human
Absolutely.
relationship, is very important.
100%.
Uh, yeah, I think very well said. A lot of thoughts, but one of the things I wanted to touch upon is um, in any organization, even my own company where I love to work, Leidos, I have been doing some great work with the great people. Um, I call it, you know, TT, but I'm not TT culture, but I'm not saying it table tennis. I'm saying talent training. Talent training culture is very important.
Hmm.
That not necessarily AI is going to solve all your problems, right? There are different technologies that you hear about. There is RPA solutions, right? Robotics process automations that can do a lot of work. Quantum technology is taking shape right now. So, we need to focus on that. Um, when we talk about integrated platforms, there are so many tools and technologies that are in the market. How do we bring the right synergy? And then security. Security is paramount, right? I mean, when you're doing AI, a lot of things are happening. So that's where this talent training culture should only not focus on, okay, this is how you do with the AI and this is the tools, but also create that environment where what's not right for AI.
Hmm.
So as the generations grow, they have that mindset of certain things, not, no, that's not right, or that this is the perfect,
Yep.
conditions and solutions.
Hmm.
So I think we need to have that level of, training
I
in
agree.
every company, every organization at this point of time.
Completely agree. And we were talking around it a little earlier about, humanity not being on the top of the food chain anymore. But when
Yeah.
people talk about AI surpassing humans, like from a functional perspective, what does that even mean?
I mean, there are a lot of memes people made. One guy calls, I think somebody calls a shop and
Hmm.
he didn't know the answer. So he's doing LLM or one of the LLMs and he gets the answer. He sends it to the other guy. He doesn't understand what he said. So he asked LLMs and the whole topic went somewhere else.
Hmm.
And then one guy or one of the LLMs guys, I forget which one, suggested you need to call police for these scenarios. He
Hmm.
calls police and police does the LLM. And so the whole thing went off into somewhere
Hmm.
and people didn't know. So, I mean, I know it's exaggeration or it's a meme or it's a
Hmm.
fun, but I think if you take that model, I mean, a lot of things can go. So if we talk about this food chain, going back to your question,
Hmm.
if we have that level of, I guess, problems, uh, that can create a lot of havoc. But then that, call it 30%, 70%, 40%, 60%, that remaining population have to continuously evolve so we can
Hmm.
make the checks and balances and guardrails and trustworthiness and responsible AI, fairness,
Hmm.
the transparency, compliance, explainability, observability. Those are the things that we as a data scientist or AI experts have to continuously sort
Hmm.
of. And actually, that made me think about something called fractal computing.
Okay.
Fractal computing is becoming very powerful in terms of, making or breaking at each level and trying to understand why it is happening, what's happening, and then what are the checks and balances you can apply at each level
Hmm.
of the different, AI models that we are creating. So fractal computing will be a good solution to look into it so that, humans continue to grow on the food chain and not, machine taking it over.
Absolutely. And considering everything that we've been talking about today, especially for the last half of this conversation, what gives you the most hope of about the future, or, where humans and AI and humans and computer, humans and AI are really going to work together. What gives you hope about that, Sunil?
There's a lot of hope. I mean, there are a lot of good things that are happening with AI. I mean, like I said about coexisting,
Hmm.
co-piloting. So that's a big hope. Let's say you are trying to understand your target when you are in defense, right? And when you try to understand your target, they're moving.
Hmm.
So how do you use your, real time
Hmm.
information that we can use it? So that's one example. In medical facilities, how can we get a lot more information and the details at the time when you're doing it? So that makes me very hopeful.
Hmm.
um Parenting is not a good place to be there. That's not good, to your point.
Hmm.
uh Autonomously driven cars are good hope. um Retail business is doing pretty good with some of the AI functions that they have incorporated right now. So there are a lot of hope uh, in healthcare, in defense, in security systems. If when you go through the TSA, and as you know, Leidos does the, all this. If you remember how you do this, that's all
Hmm.
us. We are doing a great job there. So if we can use the AI models to do the predictive analytics
Hmm.
so that people don't have big lines there and you save time,
Hmm.
that's a big thing. And I can go on. I just personally think AI is a good technology and it will remove some jobs. I cannot say it's not going to remove jobs, but I think it's going to create a lot more jobs and our economy and GDP will be better as we continuously evolve. I mean, we didn't touch upon the NASA and geospatial.
Hmm.
Think about that whole world, how much we can do with this, going to
Yep.
other places in this space. That's another big area.
Hmm. Absolutely, man.
Just humongous, humongous. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of
I
hope.
agree.
But the bottom line is we need to have the checks and balances and guardrails at every step because it can be, and cybersecurity and defensive security to address those things as we continuously evolve.
Completely agree, man. No, I completely agree, Sunil, and I do appreciate it. I appreciate you taking time to chat today. Really have enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot from you.
Well, thank you, and it was good opportunity. And Nick, it's always fascinating to talk to you, and I'm glad I was able to share. Not necessarily I know a lot
Hmm.
of things. I'm still learning. I just know a little bit about this, but
Yeah. Hmm.
I'm always curious. I want to do more. I want to help. I enjoy what I do, and I just find it very, very fascinating and interesting time right now with the AI for the next several decades, I would say.
I'm with you. And everybody, thank you so much for listening to Robots and Red Tape. As always, Nick Schutt, and I hope you're having a great day.